Welcome to Spam Filter for Your Brain, bite-sized ponderings on how our thoughts influence our behaviour and our lives, and because we're all connected, how our thoughts impact the world. I'm here to help people reconnect with their bodies and declutter their brains. And I don't believe that we should just magically know how our emotions and our thoughts impact our lives if no one ever teaches us. So let's learn this stuff together. I'm edging over to this side of the screen today because the sunshine's being cute. This week I wanted to offer you a really gentle reframe of ways that you can interrupt yourself when you start to spiral. All of the stuff that I talk about is very much about the bigger learning and trying to get yourself on board and how you can interrupt some of the patterns that can be so embedded that they work against us sometimes. And this episode, I would just like to offer you some things that might be useful for you for those moments where you haven't managed to avoid getting into that spiral and where you notice that things are going in a direction that have not got you results that you like in the past. This is an example of some of the alternative things that you could say to yourself. Not all of these things are going to work for you, but you could use this as a sort of starting place and then just explore what might be the thing that resonates for you. And I want to backtrack just a little bit and remind you that you don't need to believe every thought that you think. And that can seem like a really wild concept if you're used to believing everything that your brain tells you. And most of us are brought up to believe that the things that pop into our head are the absolute truth. And if anyone has a different opinion to that, we must really prove them wrong. And I'm here to try and suggest that there might be times where you want to prove yourself wrong. And we know that not everything that we think is true because you can think a whole load of things that aren't true. The truth is that a lot of the things that we think, the things that we believe, are things that were taught to us, and not all of those things are going to be right because quite a lot of the stuff that we are taught is just stuff that other people were taught to believe. And we can filter some of that stuff out and just try and work out what really works for us. And it isn't about gaslighting ourselves or trying to convince ourselves that what is true isn't true or any kind of toxic positivity. It's quite simply noticing what's going on for us and then deciding if we want to reframe that. It's about compassionate redirection. So, for example, a thought that a lot of people have of a Monday morning might be, I've got too much to do. Or maybe it's on a Friday evening. I have too much to do. Now, when you notice that you're thinking that, quite often what can happen is we spin off into listing all of the things that we need to do, all of the repercussions that might happen if we don't do the thing. And then we start getting quite stressed about all of the fallout if we don't achieve the things that we've told ourselves are absolute essentials right now. Now, I'm not here to tell you that those things don't need to be done. You can go through that list and decide which ones are essential and which ones aren't. However, there are some reframes that might be useful for you, or additional thoughts that you can add into the mix. So rather than telling yourself you shouldn't be feeling like this, or that these things shouldn't happen, or that you should have done them earlier, or what will happen if you don't hand that assignment in, you could, for example, think, well, of course I feel like this. There are a lot of things on this list. Of course I feel like this. I've been told that there are repercussions to me not handing them in. Of course I feel like this. This is the way that capitalism puts pressure on us to define our worth and our value according to our output. Whatever works for you. The key bit is in centering your needs as valid and appropriate responses. Of course you feel like that. That's the right response to something which your brain has registered as dangerous. And other gentle reframes that we can have around this are, I can do one thing at a time. I don't have to fix it all today. If I start now, I'm going to be closer to getting the things done. There could be a chance that this is possible. I'm going to just begin. I'm going to start from where I am now. All of these reframes, I hope you can see, just take things down a peg or two. They just take things through to feeling like there's a possibility that things don't have to be awful. And that's basically where we want to get to with everything. It's not about trying to convince ourselves that everything's going to be rainbows and daisies the whole time. It's about just trying to take more of a calm level so you can then make decisions according to what you want and what you need. So when you have these thoughts come up that tell you that everything that you're doing is wrong or that it's all awful, Just pause, take a beat, take a breath, and try and interrupt it with something that is just a little bit more neutral. And maybe you want to chat back to it. Maybe it's like, hey, thought, I see you, but not today, dude. Maybe it is like, oh, I see you trying to protect me, but we're not going down that road today. Or, oh, that's just a thought that I'm having. I notice I have other thoughts available to me too. What pattern of interruption works for you? So there are 4 questions that I think are really useful. There's an interruption guide, if you like. And these 4 questions are, what might be more helpful right now? Asking yourself that reminds yourself that you're in the driver's seat, that you can control what goes on in your own brain, even when it feels like you're constantly in responsive reflex mode. What might be more helpful here? Question number 2. What would I say to someone that I love? I know that we have often heard this phrase of treat yourself like your best friend, but actually it's useful and do it. It's a really common phrase for a reason. What would you say to someone that you love? And if you can't quite get there because it all feels like you really do have to do these things and these thoughts feel too heavy, maybe try a reframe on it of what would feel 10% better. What would feel 10% more kind here? And my favorite pause reframe, expanding it out, is what else could be possible? What else could be possible here? This is how I interrupt my own thoughts. This is how I very rarely spiral off into dismay and doom and gloom. And I just find it a really useful tool. I haven't always been like this. This is not an innate genetic capacity that I have, that I was born with, to step out of the cycle of getting over dramatic about the tiniest possible things. Because believe me, I was exceedingly good at that. And actually, God, it's so relieving not to be in that place, just to be able to stop and go, I don't like the way that this feeling or this direction is taking me. I'm going to notice what's going on and I'm going to choose something different. This is a really powerful tool set. So I hope that this is useful for you and in every glorious way. I wish you sunshine, I wish you warmth, and I wish you gentle brain interrupts for those moments where it all feels too much. Reach out if you'd like more support. I'll speak to you next week. If you've been enjoying what you're hearing on the podcast, you will love Self-Care School. Self-Care School is longer versions of this, more in-depth and more personalised. We have a whole hub of courses from body image to boundaries, perfectionism, time management, and a whole range of other topics. You name it, there's probably a course on it. But most importantly, we also have a weekly group coaching call where you get to apply this stuff to your everyday life and get support to try and untangle your own story from some of the emotions that you might not be enjoying in your life. If you would like to learn how to apply this work to your specific situation and to be building a life of your dreams, I would love to see you inside. Do pop over to selfcareschool.co.uk.